about. You get to talk about what the announcer said. You don't miss that. But the other thing for me is that at 3 p.m., that's when the Penguins and Flyers play Game 3. You see, so you sort of...
Today at 3?
No, on Sunday.
Oh, on Sunday.
Assuming it's not rained out and all this. Hey, I got some questions. Let's go to this here. They play tonight at 7. Yeah, so you know what I'll be doing at 7 here. All right. The man. I think he's the man now in the Tri-Cities because we've made him as such. Jerry Bonkowski talking NASCAR, NBCSports.com, he does all kinds, NHRA, Indy Sport, NASCAR. He's a tremendous motorsports writer and a pretty friendly person. So I guess the first thing, though, is that the big story this week to me in NASCAR was Monster Energy. Seems to be saying, 2019, and that'll be it. We'll no longer have the Premier Cup Series be sponsored there. That means that possibly a 5th different sponsor for the Premier Series in this century, which I think is a little tough to keep track of. Forgive the long-windedness of this question, Jerry Bonkowski, but yesterday Matt Yoakum was on, and he spoke of maybe trying to bundle sponsorship. Have you heard anything about bundling sponsorship, perhaps replacing the traditional Premier Cup sponsor, be it Monster Energy or, dare I even say, Winston?
Well, there has been talk about that. I mean, the model of multiple sponsors obviously is, as we've seen over the years with individual teams, has worked quite well. And, it's very difficult for many companies to, want to, or to justify the cost to, not only themselves but their shareholders to sponsor a professional sports league such as NASCAR for 36, 38 races, if you include the exhibition races as well too. So it's an idea that I'm sure is being talked about and explored. I'm not totally convinced though that Monster is going to go away after 2019. Yeah, they extended it for 1 year, but I think that there may be a possibility they may come back. I think that they would not have extended it for 1 more year if they didn't like what they've seen already, if they didn't get the return on investment they've been looking for. And I think that they're kind of being bullish on what where NASCAR is going in the future, and I think they may want to be part of it. But there's a lot of things to consider. I mean, oftentimes we see like with what was the Nationwide Series. They decided to not sponsor the series, and they went over and sponsored Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s car. Was it the last 2 years, I guess it was, or 3 years, whatever it was. Previous years, rather. So I mean, you can see what I'm saying. I mean, there's a interest in it. Whether, but of course, if NASCAR could get a full sponsor that would want to sponsor the entire series, that'd be ideal. But you have to do, and you have to be adjustable. Or you have to be not adjustable. You have to be versatile enough, I guess it is, to decide if you want to go that route or not.
Well, we're talking to Jerry Bonkowski, NBCSports.com. When you say you don't think Monster will pull out, do you think that they could continue to sponsor the Cup? Because I know a lot of representatives said, it's probably not going to happen. Or do you think that we might have at some track a Monster Energy 500, that sort of thing?
I definitely think if they do not come back as the entitlement sponsor for the series, that they potentially still would be involved in NASCAR, either as in some kind of a for lack of a better word, an associate sponsorship, if you will, and that could include, sponsoring a race, maybe perhaps, a race that would be to them, would fill the bill for their sponsorship needs, and what, depending on what track it would be at, how important the race would be, if it would be in the playoffs, not in the playoffs. There's a lot of elements at play here. So, but excuse me, like I said.
Bless you.
I'm not totally convinced that they're going to be gone after 2019. I think that they gave themselves an extra year to kind of look at things a little bit more closely. And I mean, let's face it, they've been in the entitlement sponsors only for the last 2 years, rather. And there's a point where you come to that. You have to say, is this working or not? And obviously, if they extended it 1 more year, it has been working to a degree. And I guess they want to look over things and say, and again, in my opinion, they have to look over things and say that, if this is working for us, let's keep going. So I think that, we'll certainly hear hear more news going forward in the 2018 campaign and into 2019. Whether or not they will extend or if 2019 will be their last season.
Well, you and Ben Trout, who is a track employee that we had on right before you, are really talking optimistically about NASCAR here. I got to give you at least some credit here, and so now I've got to be the hard-edged journalist here and throw it to you, and I'll talk you. There's questions about the weather. 100% chance of rain, thunder showers on Sunday, and then on Monday it's going to be cold and rainy in the morning. Now maybe that means I can get it in a 40-degree day, just like Martinsville was run earlier this year. But what is the contingency? First of all, I want to ask, a baseball game, there are kind of rules. After 2 hours, I know in the major leagues you got to wait an hour for you call a game. Usually it's 2 hours or so. Does NASCAR have a similar rule of a rain delay?
No, I mean, they have a very strong service that they subscribe to for weather. I mean, it's like the Cadillac standard of weather forecasters, and they get better forecasts, I think, than the conventional National Weather Service or the Weather Channel or whatever you want to call it. And I think that I was at a race, and I'm trying to remember. I want to say it was where was it? Oh, Daytona, 2000 and was it 14? I think it was. We started in the daylight, and then there was that long delay, and then we had all kinds of things happen in the race in the evening that actually started late in prime time and continued on well into almost into the wee hours. Almost, I think it's a race ended at midnight or something like that. That was the race Dale Earnhardt Jr. won. Mm-hmm. So there is a contingency plan, if you will. But at the same time, if the weather service that you subscribe to says, it's going to rain for the next, 10 hours, 12 hours, you really want to put the fans, that have bought these tickets through that. I mean, I'm sure a lot of fans don't want to be that long either. So that's kind of the way that NASCAR adapts it. They look at it by a case-by-case basis. All
right. Well, Jerry, I got to take a break. I hope you can hold on. It's Tri-City Sports Now. Coming back with Jerry Bonkowski after this. It's race week. We got to be able to have you on here.